Good morning, San Francisco! Welcome to Free Talk SF. You are here. I am your host, Steven Zeiler. And
I'm Derek J.
Joining me is my special distinguished guest, Derek J.
Thanks for having me, Steven.
Thanks for coming, Derek.
It's my pleasure. First time in San Francisco since I was 12. And boy, have things changed. There's a lot of freedom here. A lot of freedom that we don't have in New Hampshire.
Yeah, well, in case you don't know, Free Talk SF is all about freedom, empathy, and independence for all people in San Francisco. And that's our mission. That's what we talk about here every day. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today's show, by the way, is brought to you by the BIPCOT No-Gov license. BIPCOT No-Gov, that's free to use for anyone except government agents. They can still use it, but if they do, they agree to be publicly shamed. So go check out the BIPCOT license, bipcot.org. All right, so we were going to talk about today, we were at the park.
Yes, and we met Jewel. She is a lovely girl who was going around so courageously and just talking to anyone who was at the park. What was it? Dolores Park? A beautiful place where people are free. They drink beer and wine and smoke cannabis all openly. There was a guy dispensing suntan lotion for free of all different SPFs, and I think
Was he really?
Yeah, I think taking some donations in the form of some swigs or some puffs. But yeah, that was really cool. But one of the people who was around the park was Jewel, and she wanted to sign people up to register to vote.
To vote.
And I kind of thought that was like funny. At first, I wanted to sort of ignore her, stay away from her. But then she was so lovely and approachable. You waved. You were like, hey.
I wanted to talk to her.
You needed to register to vote anyway because you're running.
Yes, I am running for state assembly, District 17 or something like that. But I needed to register to vote. And I had to be in the Democratic Party in order to run for the primary. And well, I wanted to talk to her about what kind of things do people vote on in California? What does voting look like in San Francisco?
Yeah, they can vote on anything here in, I think, all of California. Anything could be a ballot measure if you get 10,000 signatures. And they have to be like registered to vote here in San Francisco. So it's not that easy to get 10,000, I would think. But then once you do, you can make anything happen. You could use the magic wand of government to do whatever you want.
Well, I imagine that you could just spend a bunch of money and get the signatures. Like, there's probably some avenue for just
there's probably a business for that,
and just putting it in. Like,
if there isn't already, there should be. It would be neat. Like, oh, we've got a list of 10,000 signatures. Just pay us whatever X amount of dollars, and we'll give you the ballot measure that you want.
Unfortunately, a lot of the ballot measures were not intended to enhance freedom.
No.
I think a lot of them were.
I think they're intended to, but the result of them is that they don't.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So one of them was a moratorium on housing in the Mission. And basically they want to prevent a lot of people from building new houses in the Mission. Obviously they don't understand supply and demand economics, but I can see where they're coming from. They want to give the existing people in the Mission more freedom to continue living their lives without being disrupted by like hyperinflation that we're experiencing right now and all of the overregulation that can't have businesses and things. But rather than like reducing their taxes, giving them more freedom, they want to prevent other people from building houses.
I wonder what the best way is of approaching these people who are totally well-intended. Like this girl, Jewel, was framing the issue as like, well, if you're for the people, then you would be for the moratorium, right? Didn't she say almost exactly those words?
She did. She said, if you want to empower the people, you're for the moratorium. And then if you know economics, then you're against it. That's what she said.
She said that? Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe she's a little more educated.
She understood, but I think she was still presenting the dichotomy, the dynamic that they're trying to play up.
Right.
So how do we approach it so that if you want to support the people, you also support freedom?
I don't know. Like, so what do the statists do? They use pamphlets and they share their ideas. They put some emotional like zinger up on the front, like they want your jobs, or like they're coming for your house.
Yeah.
and they grab your attention. And I see it's really common to have flyers in people's doors and all these notices everywhere. So I don't think it would be too unusual for a San Franciscan to get a flyer in his doorway or in his mailbox having to do with the moratorium. It's an opportunity for outreach, for people to explain, a little bit of economics to the people of San Francisco, help them make better decisions for the laws that will impact their freedom.
And I like the idea of using the emotional appeal, because that is what they do. They use that all the time. It's always the emotional appeal. It's never an economic appeal at all. And I don't think the economic appeal is going to work, really. But yeah, if we could give them that, but in a way that like their emotions are triggered negatively when they think, oh, well, this is going to cause shortages and people won't be able to get houses or things like that.
Yeah, or telling a story. That's another one. The Institute for Justice uses their videos really well, where they'll frame an issue and produce a little 5-minute cartoon or something that tells the story of Anne, who has a shop in her house, and because of some new law in California, she's now able to bake in her house and produce goods for the community. This is good for everyone. And so just telling that sort of story, like, oh, Al, he wants to build this house on this plot of land that he owns, but he's not allowed, because there's these ridiculous government bureaucrats who say, oh, this is not up to our liking. Basically they're deciding what his house can be and look like and can offer to the community. Just ain't right. So we'll tell the story of Al or whoever would be impacted by this.
I would hope that works. Most of the people, though, would say, well, they're not people building houses. It's large developments building houses.
Yeah, that's always a tough issue, is like, oh, it's okay to steal from Walmart because they're a huge corporation, but it's not okay to steal from the corner store down the street because that's Joe. I know him. He owns that. And I wouldn't steal from Joe, but it's okay to steal from a large corporation.
I admit I did steal from Walmart as a younger person. And I felt like, oh, no one's being harmed by this. Obviously, yeah. I was wrong.
Yeah, well, someone is. I mean, your actions have consequences, all of them. Not just like, I think it's comfortable for people to write off their actions if it's just a drop in the ocean. Oh, just one trinket or pack of Pokemon cards from Walmart or whatever it was.
It was some shorts, some nice shorts.
At least you had your priorities straight.
I went back and shopped there enough to make up for it.
The point is to get people to see that this law and all laws impact individuals, that they're not about just some corporation that can't do its evil bidding and build a bunch of oil fields in San Francisco. It's more like, someone who is a neighbor of yours, someone who's part of your community is being impacted by this law, and they're being prevented from bringing good things to you.
I think people could probably empathize with like their condo owners that own these houses. It's not like the building owns the whole thing. They're just building it and selling the units. And so it is individual people's homes that are being prevented from being built. Yeah.
Some of the questions you asked Jewel during your interview with her was about how many people vote in San Francisco. And I was really surprised that a lot of people do. It's an engaged community.
Well, according to her numbers, but there are about 850,000 people in the city, and 400,000 of them are eligible to vote or registered to vote. And then about 200,000 of them do vote. Was that right?
Yeah, something about that. Those numbers sound about right to me. But I was amazed because I was expecting something closer to between 10 and 30%. And I thought that would be pretty good of a turnout. I think in national elections, isn't it something closer to that?
Oh, no, what she said was it was 70%. Oh, you mean in federal elections?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's definitely less than 50%.
Well, she said 60 to 70% vote in the big elections and then 50% in the smaller elections.
Yeah. And I don't know how to take that either. Is it a good thing that all these people are voting, or would it be better if they were not engaged and there were, nobody voting?
Yeah, I mean,
if nobody voted, what would happen?
Well, then the state would just disappear.
Let's get there.
What if there was an election and nobody voted? Well, I do think that elections aren't the answer here. Really, what we need to do is empower individuals to take ownership of their own communities. And so they were talking about different other positions, not big state positions or big ballot measures, but local offices, local supervisors.
Yeah.
Each neighborhood has their own supervisor.
Sheriff and district attorney are also on the ballot for this election.
Yeah, I don't know how much change those people are really going to make. I want to really want to focus on the culture.
Well, why not ask the sheriff? Like, anytime there's an election, there's an opportunity for ambush interviews, which are always great. Like going up to where you know this person's going to be and asking them a difficult question on camera so that they have no time to prepare for it and they have to give you their most like honest, unfiltered answer, or struggle through lying and make great video. So I would want to ask some of these sheriff's candidates how they feel about cannabis. You know,
exactly. Me
do
too.
you plan to put more peaceful people in jail for openly smoking cannabis? And I don't think that really happens here in San Francisco, though I'm sure there are people who are in jail for possession of large amounts. I'd like to see them free.
And if they're selling the cannabis openly, it becomes an issue for the sheriff.
Oh, right. Yeah. Hey, how do you feel about your local pot dealer? Are you going to leave him alone? I'd like to know.
Yeah.
If you want my vote, you better leave the pot dealers alone.
Yeah, I think most people in the city would agree.
Same with the DA. You know, how many pot smokers do you plan to prosecute as district attorney? If the answer is more than zero, you're out, man.
Well, they have all these dispensaries here, but they're all regulated by the city health department.
Yeah.
And I wonder, does the city actually use the sheriff and the police to go and persecute the non-licensed dealers? A dealer that I know, I'll say that, he's afraid of the cops still, and like they're always coming around and is disrupting his business, and sometimes he can't like make money for the week because there's cops around. And it'd be nice if he could just sell plants out of his store there
openly to say and wave to the officers, hello, you know, have a nice day.
And provide them with some services as well.
Hopefully while not on the job though. Or maybe they could relax.
I don't know. I'm pretty effective.
Well, yeah, but you know, like I want a first responder. If I view the cops as like actually legitimate, I want them to be on their game. You know, like there's in Detroit a private form of police called the Threat Management Center, and like that's the kind of police force that I have respect for. People who operate voluntarily, who are serving customers, not like police who are just like, oh, we own you, we own everybody, we can do whatever we want.
So what would a private police look like in San Francisco?
Well, they would probably not be armed. The police are armed, but in Detroit, the Threat Management Center is not. And they don't use guns. They have, their focus is de-escalation, preventing violence from happening and keeping the streets safe, which seem to be almost the exact opposite goals of the police department, where whenever they arrive on the scene, they almost immediately escalate whatever situation is happening. They amp up the use of force, and there's actually something called the use of force continuum, which they can go right up until the point of death, and I don't want that. So with a private police force, if a agent or employee of yours, in this case, were to abuse you, I mean, you'd have a real legitimate suit against them. But with the police, good luck with that.
And you'll never get a suit against an individual police officer.
Well, right. Well, you may, but even still, the consequences are often socialized. They're dispersed to the community. So,
like, how much do I want to pay to sue this guy?
Right.
Well, yeah. One thing I keep thinking, and I want to actually ask the cops here, why do you have guns? Like, they're not really in any danger. They're walking around with.
Why not? Everyone should have guns.
Yeah, I agree with that on the one hand, but everyone here seems so peaceful that they don't even want to have weapons or guns at all. But I honestly feel less safe with the police having guns.
Yeah.
And just let's ask them, what do you think you're going to need it for? Mm-hmm. If they say, well, we just want to have defense, that's fine. But I don't think they really encounter much violence out here. But they have, they pull someone over and they've got their gun and they're ready.
Yeah.
And you said like the private police forces wouldn't have guns.
They likely wouldn't, because customers tend not to want that. So like one of the cool things about private organizations is they depend on customers' money to operate. And if customers don't like what they're doing, then they go out of business. So Threat Management Center in Detroit, Detroit actually is a dangerous place. They might have use for those guns, but because the customers don't want them to have it, they don't. And I think that's a useful method. Of course, they do have heavy artilleries in their cars, so they do ride around in like near tanks that they've got. But at least they're privately owned. They're not paid for by your federal family.
Now, and thinking of the customers, let's call them customers here in San Francisco. I bet they would want the cops not to have guns because they don't want me to have guns. So,
yeah,
and most people here, they're like, we just don't even want that thought of violence at all because we don't need it.
Yeah, they don't want that kind of culture. Like I come from New Hampshire, where almost everyone and their child carries a gun. But in San Francisco, people just wouldn't. It's a different culture. Some people like rap music, some people like classical. It's just different strokes. And I view gun ownership that way too. It's not like people are helpless; they can't defend themselves. I'm sure you guys all have pepper spray around here.
Pepper spray might be illegal too.
Oh no! What about your own private taser? If cops can have tasers, can you?
Well, of course you can. You can have whatever you want.
Right.
I mean, you get it and you put it in your pocket, and that's it. That's that.
So, what about a stun gun? Do you think that would be something that San Franciscans would say is an appropriate use of defensive force
for the police or for people?
For people.
Yeah, I think that would be an appropriate use.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I've seen some that even look like cell phones. So you could be like, "Oh, I'm in a dangerous neighborhood. I'm talking on my cell phone." Yeah, and then like zap somebody. Not aggressively.
Okay.
If they come at you.
Let me be distracted for a second. There is a kitty right there in the window.
I'll take a picture. You keep talking.
All right. Okay.
We'll post it to this episode.
So the kitty, by the way, the kitty loves the show. He watches every morning, and he actually listens to the reruns too, because he's a cat. He has nothing to do. All right.
I can't find my camera, so that was a fun distraction.
Okay.
But he's really cute.
So more about freedom. And different types of freedom that probably a lot of people in the libertarian movement don't talk about much. Freedom to express yourself sexually or in different ways that are often very taboo. And we had a fun experience here. San Francisco is much more taboo free in a lot of ways than other parts of the world. And we went to the San Francisco Armory yesterday, and the Armory is a giant, well, it used to be a military armory, and now those like over the last 100 years it has evolved into a giant porn studio specializing in BDSM. And what does BDSM stand for?
Bondage, dominance, and
submission.
It can stand for a few different things. Yeah, dominance, submission, but also sadism and masochism.
Yeah, so it's all about like
consent. To me, it's about control and consent. What situations would you like to have controlled for you, and what situations would you like to be in control of, and making it explicit.
But yeah, because BDSM is a lot about torture and erotic pain, and a lot of people are into that.
Humiliation as well.
Humiliation. Oh yeah, licking boots and heels and things. A lot of people are really into that, but they don't feel mentally free to pursue that. There's not a safe place, and traditionally, people have experienced torture through like actual coercion and being tortured and being humiliated, and so. In that way, that's not freedom at all. That's slavery. But here, everyone is very consenting. You have to have explicit consent to do everything, and everyone's very respectful and careful. And it's like the anarchist torture sex chamber dungeon.
in a way, it is. And I got to see this in practice of the facility. it was made clear to the guests that we are to ask for consent for every photograph that we take, which has a person in it. Of course, we can take photos of all the torture chambers and dungeons that we want, but if there's a person in that photo, we need to ask their consent. And if we can't ask their consent, for example, if they're a performer who's busy and can't answer, well, then the answer is no. It has to be consensual. All things do. And I really like that it's sort of like an irony that torture, bondage, sadomasochism could be the catalyst for a society that's more consensual. We're going from a slave world to a free world thanks to kink.
Thank you, kink.com. Yeah. And one thing you said was you felt like the libertarians are really into BDSM and things like that because they get to have explicit control over the power relationships in their life, whereas we're hyper aware of the power relationships with the state and the police, the courts, and how they impose themselves on us against our will. We're very aware of that. So to be able to approach that in a very voluntary fashion is probably very attractive, I imagine, to a lot of libertarians. Yeah,
like part of me in my life asks, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or why are things this way? And so often the answer is, because the state wrote some law or some edict, or there's some enforcer who's going to threaten violence if I don't do X or Y, like get a license. But in this case, or in the case of BDSM, it's very clear why you're doing what you're doing, because it is all spelled out, before and after the acts. So I thought it was a unique experience. I got a mug at the gift shop because I want to remember that. The tour guide was also quite lively, so I would recommend it to anyone who in the San Francisco area. If you haven't yet gone, even if you're not into kink, go explore the world, see what it's like.
Yeah. And one thing I really loved was it seemed like a huge victory for all of society that there used to be this big military armament, this big fortress. It was imposing and scary, and there were soldiers in there. They were probably really smelly, and probably smelled pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
And now it has been, it was abandoned by the military, and now it's a place for people to experience pleasure and to bring that pleasure to millions of people around the world. And so it looks like our society is really progressing from coercion to freedom. And I think this is a microcosm of that.
Yeah. Hey, weird. One of the things I'm seeing right now is a cop writing a ticket to a car that's down on the street. And he wrote one ticket down there. It looks like he's getting ready to tow the thing too. And he's opening the car doors. He's actually going down and opening the doors, which is something I've never seen a parking enforcer do. He's going right up inside the car. He's searching around in the dash. Yeah, and boy, that's something I don't enjoy seeing.
I don't like that, man. Oh, that's sad because there's actually a big movement here. People feel so safe that they don't want to lock their doors or anything.
I think that's great. I want to feel that type of safety.
But then you have intruders just going onto your property.
Well, it's funny because the people who are so trusting like this, who would want to keep their doors unlocked, would think the last person who would violate their privacy are agents of the state. But of course, look, they're the first. I don't see any people with heroin or bottle of booze knocking through the window or breaking in, but I do see a man dressed in blue with a badge, and he's breaking in.
He might have he has a patch on the side.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So he's probably just an imposter. Oh no, there's the owner. They're upset. Oh, I think he just actually put that sign out in front of their car saying tow away zone, like after they parked.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, there are different kinds of freedoms here in New Hampshire. Of course, in San Francisco, cars get towed in New Hampshire too, and had battles over that. But one of the other types of freedoms that I've enjoyed while being here is like just the freedom to be. I mean, you're free to be everywhere, but it's more of a gay culture here. So just like frolicking around is something that people will applaud rather than.
And they did.
Yeah.
like, okay, last night we were in the train station and we were dancing a very, very sensual dance, and kind of lost in our own world. But could you do that? Would you feel safe doing that in a lot of other big cities?
No. It's not like I'd feel like someone's gonna throw a punch or something. It's just like, I don't know. You know your audience, right? Like, it's not like I'm performing for others, but I'm aware that they are there, and I don't feel threatened by any of the people in San Francisco for being super gay. That's totally fine. In fact, a man, while we were like skipping or dancing around, or you gave me a twirl while we were walking down the street, and it sort of took me and of course him by surprise, and he let out a laugh. He couldn't help but just chuckle to himself as he saw this act, which was just super cute, and like I don't know what that would have been like in another city, so I can't really say.
And we got a lot of laughs, a lot of smiles all day yesterday. And no scoffing, no like, ooh, gross, or anything like that. I mean, I've heard that even in Austin, there's people who say that kind of thing, or you overhear them say something to a friend.
Well, even in Philly, which is very gay friendly, in the neighborhood, I've been walking down the street and had someone shout out "faggot," I'm like, that's just not a thing that would happen here. And I think if it did, that person would probably get chased down.
Well, no, it does happen with the meth addicts on the corner.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
But they're yelling they yell faggot at anyone.
Right.
So
it's a pretty good guess around here.
Okay. Well, they're just yelling a lot of obscenities.
So what other types of freedom are there? Any other thoughts or reactions from Dolores Park?
It was nice to see everyone like having open containers, smoking cannabis, doing what they want. It was very anarchistic.
That shocked me. The only other experience that I've had that was anything like being in Dolores Park is Agora Valley at PorcFest, where people are free to. It's like a similar natural amphitheater of just open grass and people openly smoking grass and consuming alcohol. There were some law enforcers who came by, and I sort of got a thump in my chest when I saw these guys walking down. Like, are they going to cause problems? That's been my experience. They would stop people from enjoying themselves this way. But these guys, no, they didn't want any problems with. Everyone had alcohol.
I bet they were just going to the park. They were probably just going.
Maybe
like, let's go to the park.
Take a stroll.
Yeah.
But I have friends who have been arrested for having open containers in the park, and that's a type of freedom that the live free or die state lacks. That San Francisco, which people criticize for being in statist California, has.
Yeah, statist California doesn't have state liquor stores,
right?
Like New Hampshire and other places.
Yeah, the alcohol is much more free here.
In fact, you can buy it basically anywhere. Any store can sell liquor, and you can buy it at any time.
Yeah, we got some imported Japanese beer yesterday.
I think the bars have to close at a certain time. So, but,
okay. But
Costco sells liquor. So that's great.
There's a time limit on buying alcohol in New Hampshire too. No place can continue to sell alcohol after 11:45 p.m. Which
11:45.
Yes, it's a very specific time.
And 30 seconds.
Yes. I've gone right up to the edge where I'm at the grocery store line. I'm like, did I make it? Yes, they'll still sell it. But it's weird. Why should we even have to ask that question? It's like as if reality somehow changes in some significant way from 11:45 to 11:46 or to midnight or to 1 a.m. Who the hell cares what time it is? You should be free to buy what you want.
Absolutely. And if you already bought it, you can still get drunk after that and be a danger or whatever. I mean, buying. Yeah.
So what about concealing weapons here in San Francisco? Do you think people do that? Is that common?
I don't know because they're concealed.
I would imagine.
I don't think it's very common.
I think most people carry pepper spray. Like if they live and work in a city, I should find out if that's legal here. But I think it's pretty common, and it's a great way to defend yourself if you're feeling endangered. I mean, there's range to it. It's usually legal in most places. It's pretty safe. It's not lethal, and It will
people tell me
incapacitate an
to take
attacker.
like a screwdriver or a wrench or something.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah. Like, why not just a real defensive weapon? It's a lot safer here than, say, over in Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, why not recommend Japanese throwing stars at that point? It's so ridiculous to use a corkscrew.
Yeah, like people have actually told me, corkscrew's a great weapon. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it can hurt someone, but
Yeah, against a bottle of wine, it's a great weapon.
take that bottle of wine. All right, I think we're getting close to the time.
Oh, yes.
There was something else that I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, it was dancing.
Dancing in the park.
No, oh,
Lindy?
oh yeah, Lindy
That
Hop.
was
Well,
so
we
much
did
fun.
free dancing in the park.
Yes, I was so jealous. I was watching an episode of Free Talk SF last week when you said you did Lindy in the park with John Light. And I said, I want to do that. And then we ended up doing that. It was a lot of fun. Learned some swing. The, what was the jazz move called? The like,
Oh, that
shuffle.
really silly jazz shuffle, flinging your legs around and everything. That was
Yeah.
great. Well, what I was going to say is, remember to always dance like no one's watching. Yay. Dance like no one's watching, of course, and encrypt like everyone's watching because they are watching. And if you want to send me an encrypted message, go to stevenzyler.com. You can click on my PGP key. And speaking on clicking on things, if you love this show, please click subscribe on the YouTube channel, and then you'll get these every day. Free Talk SF, Freedom Every Morning. And please share with all your friends on the social media. And yeah, of course, be free, be independent, empathize with everyone around you. Once again, please dance. Dancing has made me so much happier and freer. And talk to everyone on a deep level. Don't talk about sports. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't engage that.
talk about what's on their heart.
Talk about their heart. Talk about what they're feeling. And you're going to get a lot more out of that. And oh yeah, one last thing I wanted to say before we go. I paid in silver the other day. The waitress at Fork
She
Store
loved
Cafe.
it.
Oh, we came back and she was so happy. She was so glad.
She bought our coffee.
She bought our coffee because I had tipped her in silver, and so I'm going to count that as I bought coffee with silver in
That's
San
right.
Francisco, and that was silver that was manufactured by a private mint in New Hampshire.
Sons of Liberty.
Mint. Yeah, so I love that. I'm gonna work to expand Sons of Liberty and help them out as much as I can.
Yeah,
So that was
they're cool.
that was great. Okay, well, until next time, thank you, peace, and thanks, Derek, for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure, Stephen. FreeTalkSF.com.